Well, to any of you that's watched some previous videos, it's kind of a common thing with me that I have a hard time finding a place to start. I don't work with a script or anything else like that. I just talk about the seat of my britches, I reckon. So, might be any different this time. But as the title of this video, it says, Our Down Syndrome Story. Well, that's what this is going to be. It's a story of a little fellow that was born with Down syndrome. And he happened to have been born to my wife and I. This was right 60 years ago. I was 19, and that good-looking woman of mine was 22 when our only child was born. And this was in Tucson, Arizona. And he was actually a little bit premature, not a whole lot, but a little bit premature, which had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that he was born with Down syndrome. But at the time, nobody even heard of Down syndrome. Matter of fact, Langton Downs, the doctor who the syndrome is named after today, didn't even start calling it that till sometime in the early 60s. And Denny was born in the early 60s. Of course, nobody had heard of Downs or this doctor or anything else. It was called Mongolism. And he was, they called him a Mongoloid. So when he was born, the doctors and nurses came in and we'd never heard of Mongolism or a Mongoloid child or any of that sort of thing. And who had? Virtually nobody. But anyway, the doctor and nurses come in and they're trying to explain to us what Denny is. And they're going through all this stuff. You know, he's got a little flat face and his eyes have folds on it, you know, and little slanted eyes, and his little line across his fingers hands go straight across, and his ears kind of fold down, just all kinds of stuff like that. But and they say, you know, he's retarded. I mean, he's going to be severely retarded. As they put it, he's going to be physically and mentally retarded. And their recommendation to us was that we don't even see him. Don't see him. With our permission, he'd be put in an institution. To say it was a shock would be to put it mildly. But my wife and I, we prayed about it and said, no, we're going to at least see him. You know, we're going to see him. And the doctors and nurses, they were against that. But I mean, I'm not negative against them. I mean, what they were looking at, and they were explaining to us, we're a young couple, got virtually your whole life ahead of you, and you've been saddled with this who knows what, this Mongoloid. So anyway, we go into, because like I said, he's premature, you know, he's a little bitty fellow, and we go in there to look at him, and there in that little basket of a thing in the nursery, there's the cutest little fella you ever laid your eyes on. I mean, he just He was a doll. How could I, there's no other way to explain it. A beautiful little baby. And we didn't know anything about anything else, except we knew he was ours. So we said, no, he's ours, we're going to take him home. And then one of the nurses, bless her little heart, I mean, she's sweet as she could be. She came in, she said, now, you're going to take this child home, and he's going to be severely retarded, handicapped. But what you need to do is treat him normal. Treat him more normal than normal. Do your best. Treat him absolutely normal. So we took him home. And when you looked up Mongolism or Mongoloid in the dictionary, you know what the definition was? An idiot. That's literally what it said. It's a birth defect with some of these physical attributes, you know, make them up, but they're idiot. A Mongoloid idiot is what it was called. If you look that up on Google or anything today, you can find traces of that, the Mongoloid idiot and all that stuff. But today that's considered offensive. Well, they said he wouldn't live 6 months. If he ever got pneumonia, he'd die. No way he could survive pneumonia. Anyway, we took him home. And the hardest thing that we experienced right off the bat, you couldn't get him to eat. He would just want to sleep all the time. And so just to get him to take that little teeny tiny bottle full of milk, that was a chore. It was all we could do between the two of us to keep him awake long enough to, suckle that little thing enough to get a little bit of milk. And so anyway, we don't know what we're faced with, but we know we've got this precious little child. He's the sweetest little thing that ever was. He never cried. Never, ever did he cry. Until well later in life, and I'll explain that a little bit later on. He never cried. A baby that never cried. Sweetest little thing. You pick him up, and he just grinned all the time. When you look at him, that big old grin just all over his face. Just, he'd capture your heart. Goodness. To say he was sweet or precious would be an understatement. He was. And cute, oh my goodness, cutest little fellow. But we know he's got problems. I mean, we know that. I mean, like trying to teach him anything, the simplest of things, was an exercise in frustration. I mean, you got a baby at such and such an age should be doing so and so and all. He didn't do any of that. None of that. Even trying to just get him to sit up. I'd get him up and I'd prop him up and I'd get him just so, just perfect. And then you turn him loose. Well, he'd look at you and go, bonk. He'd plop, fall straight over, grinning all the time, or pitch forward. So he never tried to catch himself or hold himself up. He'd just sit there in front of him and you turn him loose, he'd boom, go whichever. It was hard. And so we know that Denny's going to have help. We're going to have help. And oh my God, at the time, we started looking around for, what kind of help can you get for these kids? And virtually you're dead end. You couldn't find anything. You go to look at different states, they had nothing, or what they had was dark ages. I mean, it was horrible. And I had all these plans, I joined the service, and I was going to have a military career and retired at an early age from the military at 37, and have my pilot's license, and I was going to go to Alaska. And I wanted to be a bush pilot and a big game fishing guide in Alaska. Well, when Denny came along, that changed everything. Alaska had nothing, as in nothing, for handicapped, mentally handicapped and physically handicapped children. They had nothing. They were born 60 years, things have changed dramatically, but back then there was nothing. So we started looking around at various states and seeing what individual states may or may not have. And even our home state, we come back here and went to see what our home state had, and they had an insane asylum. An institution. This is what you could put him in. Oh my God, it was like something out of Edgar Allan Poe. Like half the stuff in Virginia, they do this old Williamsburg, this old brick stuff, and buildings and all that stuff is depressing looking anyway. But heavens, to bet you went in that place, I mean, you come out there, I mean, you heartbroken. It's just horrible. Definitely there's no way in the world you're going to get Denny in something like that, for heaven's sake. So anyway, through our looking around, Tennessee, of all states, had the best we could find. Now, our hometown, Bristol, is on the, half of it's in Virginia, half of it's in Tennessee. We lived on the Virginia side, so we're Virginia residents, but we get out of service. So my plans have been bush pilot in Alaska, that's gone. All we got to do right now, we got to take care of our child. We're going to have to get him into something, get him some help. Because we had exhausted what all we could do, our training of him. We loved him, we trained him, we took care of him, we did all we could do, but man, we hit a stone, we hit a brick wall. We hit a brick wall. And so we get out of service and we establish a residency in the state of Tennessee to hopefully get Denny into this program. Now, it was a program that they actually helped these kids. I mean, it's a training program. It's they don't just put them aside and feed them till they die or something like that. I mean, they're trying to really help these kids. It's a good program. I mean, it's rather archaic or prehistoric compared to what's going on today, but back then it was quite something. Pretty much, you almost might say, state of the art. So we wanted to get him in that. Let's see, have to evaluate him and all that, and he had gone. He was one of the first patients at St. Jude's Hospital for a little while. Of course, there was nothing they could really do for him, but as such, you know. But they did run a bunch of tests and what have you, and confirmed that yeah, he was mongoloid. Even St. Jude's then called it mongoloid. They didn't call it Down syndrome or whatever after Dr. Langton Downs. It was mongolism. Well, they come out, and if you look on, which I just did the other day, I looked and it said there's 3 types of Downs. Well, actually, there's 4 types. There's 4 very common types of Down syndrome. And the way it was explained to us, if you're one type and you have another child, you have roughly a 50-50 chance of the next child also having Down syndrome or mongolism. And if you had a second type, your chances was like 1 in 200. Third type, your chances of a second child being born to you having Down syndrome was 1 in 10,000. But then there's Denny's type. It's incredibly rare. Only 1 out of every 1 million Down syndrome children are Denny's type. He's so rare, and such a rare type. And considering our age, most Downs children are born to people with a little bit more of an age factor, but Diane and I were extremely young. My God, I was, like I said, I was 19, Diane's 22. That was almost unheard of. And to be Denny's type, we stood a better chance of winning the lottery than we have Denny been born to us. But he was. And when I say he's super duper special, this type of Downs that he is, Downs in general share a lot of similar characteristics, but their abilities, physical and mental abilities, vary a tremendous amount. Some of them are pretty much self-sufficient. They're really high functioning. But Denny is, as he was classified, severely retarded. Severely physically and mentally retarded. And they were not exaggerating. He's severely retarded. But that has nothing to do with how sweet he is. Oh my Lord. Anyway, Denny is going to have help. He's going to have help the rest of his life. And contrary to what the doctors first said, they said he would never live to be 6 months. Well, he did live to be 6 months. They said if he got pneumonia, it'd kill him. Well, he got pneumonia and it didn't kill him. Then they said he'd never live to be a teenager. And then all these things that they keep saying he'd never live or do, he passed those milestones one after another. But anyway, like I said, we established this Tennessee residence to get him in this program. Then we go out and we start applying, to start trying to get him into this place. And come find out, this institution, whatever you want to call it, was only about 50 miles from our hometown. So boy, that was good. It's close. So we start trying to get him enrolled, get him in. We hit sort of a typical government anything. You hit red tape, brick wall, and everything else. So we contact our congressman, our local congressman. His name's Jimmy Quillen. Jimmy Quillen was a heck of a congressman. And he took a real interest in Denny. A real interest in Denny. He said, let me see what I can do. 3 weeks later, we were contacted to bring Denny down for an evaluation. So we did. I went over everything with him, and this was a heck of a commitment. Because what you got to do, pretty much what we're going to have to do is pretty much give him up. How do you give up something like that? That was a hard pill to swallow. And the day that we took him down to the place, it's called Green Valley, when we took him to Green Valley, and when we left him in the care of those folks, we got in a car drive home. That was a hard trip. And the deal was, we had to do our part, because they're going to take Denny, and Denny's got to be acclimated. And what they required, one of the requirements was, is no contact with him for 6 weeks. So he could give him a chance to get acclimated to a new environment. So we drove off and left him there. That was a long 6 weeks. And the Green Valley, the facility there, was more like a ward. They were wards. And dependent upon the child's abilities or mental capacity, or what you want to call it, they would be in certain wards. Well, and basically it's a lock and key thing. You know, the workers or the staff would, they could unlock doors, you know, go from around to place, but with all these people there, and being right next to a highway, you couldn't just have open door policy, you know. But anyway, we were concerned, you know, if we go back, I mean, what's Denny's reaction going to be? Like I say, we were having a heck of a time. We couldn't get him hardly trained to do most anything except to eat and laugh and just just being sweet little fellow. And he was 6 years old. I mean, we kept him for 6 years. Like I said, we hit a stone wall. We just weren't getting any further with him at all. So we go back on that first visit. We're not going to take him home. We're just for a visit. We got down there, he was potty trained. That was astonishing. That was astonishing. In 6 years, we got nowhere. Nowhere. With all the help of doctors and whatever we could do. 6 years old, he wasn't potty trained. 6 weeks, he was potty trained. And, I mean, he was happy to see us and all that. And when we left, I wouldn't say that he was real happy, but he didn't, you know, he didn't pitch fit or anything. It wasn't the best situation, I guess, but anyway, we go another 6 weeks, we go back down. Well, he's really getting acclimated then, and he enjoyed us, but he was content. You know, he was content where he was. So then we could bring him home for, you know, several days, weekends, and things like that. But the encouragement was, don't overdo it, because he's acclimated, he's comfortable where he's at. Don't do anything to upset him. So, I mean, that was our goal, you know. We could bring him home as often as we could, but just had to kind of watch the situation and make sure that they didn't overdo it, because he did like where he was. He was okay where he was. So he's getting along really good. And this went along for a period of time, a few years, and he's really making progress. And we bring him home on one of our visits, and he kind of learned to dress himself a bit, you know, more than we could ever do. And he could put on his t-shirt and shirt and his pants, and, you know, he could dress himself okay. I mean, he might look kind of disheveled here and there, whatever. You might have to straighten it up a little bit, at least for a good long while there. But he could dress himself, which, my land of living, I mean, that was something. And came in one day, and he's sitting there on the sofa and watching television. And he's sitting there, and he's fully dressed, and I had lace-up shoes, and they were on him. And Diane come in, she said, "Well, thank you for putting his shoes on him." And I said, "I didn't put his shoes on him. Neither one of us had put his shoes on him." And there he sat on that couch, pair of lace-up shoes on. I thought, you reckon it's possible? So I just kind of reached pulled one of the laces, untied it, and he looked at me like, what are you doing? He looked over, he got those laces, and I mean, they were kind of long laces, but boy, the gyrations he was going through, the motions he went through, he tied those shoes. That's one of the most phenomenal things I've ever seen in my life. Then he sat there and he tied his shoes. So what did I do? I untied them again. He tied them again. And oh, so Diane and I are just ecstatic, and I couldn't resist it. So I reached out there and I untied him third time. Dally, like I said, he couldn't speak plain at all. I mean, very few. His speech was one of the really big things, but he didn't call me Daddy. He called me Dally. Dally, no. So I quit untying my shoes. So he tied them back, and my gosh, I mean, all the things that they were able to teach him and things he could do, it was just phenomenal. And we were just ecstatic over it. I mean, he was making progress, and we knew that, like I said, Denny's always going to have help. And he was in a place that he was content with, and he was well taken care of and everything. And if something happened to us, Denny was going to be taken care of, and that was our primary concern. If something happened to us, what's going to happen to him? What's going to happen to him? It was him, his future, what's happened to him. That was our primary concern. So things are going along good there for several years. I mean, he's in this a few years, and he's doing okay. He's doing fine. Everything's okay. And then the Supreme Court of the United States made a landmark decision that the mentally retarded had the same rights that everybody else has. Well, of course they've got the same rights. If they're an American citizen, they got the same rights, whether they're retarded or not. Of course they've got the same rights, but they don't have the same abilities. Oh my God. That decision is one of the main decisions that causes communities and streets to be filled with a lot of homeless people. They were in a condition that it may not be ideal as you and I know it, but it's a whole lot better than being out on the street and homeless. They're well taken care of. But anyway, institutions pretty much just opened doors and kicked them out. And we get this notification that Denny's going to be released. We had applied for an adoption. Diane couldn't have any more children, so we applied for adoption about that same time. And they said, well, if you want to adopt one, we got one for you. We're going to send Denny home to you. We finally got him in something. He's in a program, he's in a place, he's in something that he likes, an environment that he likes, that he's functioning well in. And they're going to kick him right back where he was before we got him in there. Yeah, they had trained him to do a few things that we were never able to do, but it was a progression. And they're going to send him back to nothing. I mean, back to So anyway, we go see a lawyer and see what we can do with that, about that, you know. He had just represented a child who was brought home and left on the parents' doorsteps. He just left him out. That the parents couldn't take care of because of their age or whatever. They couldn't take care of him, and they just left this child on the doorstep. And that's what they plan on doing to Denny. But they're having one of their big staffing meetings. So Diane and I, we go down to this meeting, and there's 20-some, I think it's 27 of them. Now these were not, it might have been one or two, but most of them were not the caregivers that were giving Denny his day-to-day care or anything. These are higher ups, you know, higher up the echelon, and they're the smarter ones. And so they bring Denny in, and they're asking him all these questions, you know, and Denny, would you like to go home and live with your parents? Yeah. Would you like to leave here and to go to live with your parents? And he said, yeah, yeah. And they're asking him all these questions, and I'm sitting there saying, he don't understand what you're saying. And they look at me, yeah. And so these various ones are asking him all these questions, and he's yes, and no way, and all that stuff. And these real intelligent people, doctors and psychologists, whatever they are, they're ignoring us and they're talking to Denny. And he don't understand a thing they're talking about. But he had the uncanny ability to give you the right answer. And yes or no, I mean, he just reads you and reads your voice, your inflection, or whatever. But he would uncannily give you the right answer. It'd be yes, no, no way, no way, no way. That was his basically three answers. And of course, he would give, you know, like, no, you know, just whatever, whether yes, no, and the degree of excitement or feeling in the yes or no answer. It would be perfectly spot on every time. So I'm saying, he does not understand you. Well, they're just ignoring us, and the next one asking this and that and the other question. And I said, wait a minute. So I said, Denny, would you like for me to cut your head off? He said, yeah. I said, you would? He said, yeah. I said, you want me to cut your head off? Yeah. You want me to use a dull knife? And he said, yeah. And I said, you want me to cut your head off with a dull knife? And he, yeah. I said, you want me to do it right now? And he said, yeah. And I said, he does not understand what you're saying. He knows the right answer. It's the way I was asking the question. It was the feeling that I was putting in. It wasn't the words, it was the feeling. And to him, that was the right answer. And I said, I could have rephrased it. You only could have say no, you know, but he does not understand it. Now, he's in a great position. This is what we worked hard to get him in. And for you to deny, to throw him out of what he's used to, what he likes, what he functions in, for you to throw him out of this, ain't gonna sit good with you. Because I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. If you push him out of those doors and you take him out of this program, the next time you have one of these staffing meetings, I'm gonna be here. And I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm going to shoot every last one of you in the right kneecap. I don't want to hurt you. I definitely don't want to kill you or anything like that. But if you destroy our son's life, I'm going to get some attention. And if I shoot every one of you in the right kneecap, everybody's going to know. The authorities are going to know that I didn't mean to kill you or anything like that. That wasn't my intention. My intention was to do whatever it took drastic enough to get some attention. And they're all looking at each other. I ain't kidding you. I ain't kidding you. Well, you go to prison for that. So? I love this boy. I'll do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. If it takes, I've got to go to prison for him to have a decent life, then that's what I'm going to do. So if you feel strongly enough that you've got to kick him out of here, you better be willing to pay the price. Now, today, I'd be going to prison just for saying that. But that's okay. That's how I felt. Anyway, good did come out. Some good did come out of the Supreme Court decision. It forced the state and everybody actually to take a really good close look at the situation, and some thought went into it. And I might say the pocketbooks were opened up, state and federal pocketbooks were opened up to make a little bit more funds available for this. So out of this came the group home concept. So we said if we'd wanted to keep Denny at home, we'd have kept him at home. But we wanted him in a program like this where he can learn, he can focus, he can grow beyond what we got. He can't go to public schools or anything out there. I mean, but anyway, so would you be open to the group home concept? I said, well, Lord, yeah. The group home, basically, they would look for something like 3 and 4 bedroom houses, and they'd have it'd be two to a bedroom, and so you'd have anywhere from maybe 6 to 8 people with like similar problems in a house rather than in a big dormitory with 50, 60 or ever how many people. So, oh yeah, the group home concept sounded great. So the first group home that they had, they started a few here and there around. Well, they did the closest one that had an opening was in Knoxville. So they transferred Denny to this group home in Knoxville. So we go down, he'd been there just a little while, we go down to visit and check it out and see what's going on. Now you remember that when they were in the ward, they're sort of under a lock and key situation, you know, only the workers had to, if they're going around through the hospital or the wards, they in and out, you know, it was sort of a controlled environment. Well, they took Denny from this controlled environment and set him in downtown Knoxville. And the people that they had working this house, this group home house, was late teens, early 20s. I mean, a bunch of hippies. Heavens to Betsy. What a crew. But anyway, what a crew. They gave Denny a key and turned him loose. Get a key to the house and just turn him loose. In downtown Knoxville. These just teenagers, you know, just young teenagers. They turned him loose in Knoxville. And one of his buddies in there, you know, they have an allowance. They get SSI, and a certain amount of money was just their spending money. Well, part of the SSI went for their upkeep, you know, to pay for the house, the group home, the running of it. And they turned Denny and his little buddy loose, and a couple of blocks down the street was a triple X-rated movie house. So Denny and his buddy were spending all their time. They'd run down to the movie theater. Now, why they even let them in, I don't know. I mean, these are obviously two mentally challenged young kids, and they're anyway. They're going to the X-rated movie, Triple X. So and this group home concept is great, but you got to be better than this. And of course, there was one pretty close to home over here, real close to home. So we go over and we're looking into that situation. It was a 4-bedroom house with 8 boys in it. And so one of them is going to go home for a couple of weeks to his parents. They're going to wherever. He was pretty high functioning. He had Downs too, but he was much, much higher functioning than Denny. Oh my goodness, daylight and dark. So they agreed to let Denny come up for those 2 weeks for an evaluation, so they could evaluate him if he's going to fit into to their environment. That if they did have an opening, then fine, he'd come up. But they said, don't get your hopes up. That might be a long time. So we brought him up, and we said he'll never go back to Knoxville. He's going to stay here. We don't know how, but he's going to stay here. We done prayed and asked God, this is good for Denny, and we'd appreciate if you work it out for him, and he does what you ask him to. If you ask him and believe him, he does what you ask for. So we ask and believe that Denny's going to stay there. Now, we're not asking for some harm come to another child there to make room for Denny. Oh, no. But that was like they said, somebody's going to have to, one of these boys is going to have to die or something to create an opening here. No. Well, the boy who said that he had left for a couple of weeks ago with his parents, and they brought Denny in just for an evaluation. Well, like I said, he was really high functioning. He was the highest functioning child in that particular house. And while he is out with his parents, another group home which had a higher functioning group of people had an opening of which this child fit better than the group home that we're trying to get Denny in. So the other boy, he goes on to a better situation for him. He gets into a better situation, and Denny never went back to Knoxville. He stayed over here in county next to us. And my goodness, the lady that ran that thing, she was from Germany. She's a fabulous woman. She took such wonderful care of these kids. I mean, this was an awesome situation that they ran. And but like I said, they get SSI and what have you, and frequently we say, well, Denny don't have enough money for this or that or the other, and so we were always contributing, having to, Denny needs $200, Denny needs $300, Denny needs whatever, and this was a constant thing. And it was fine because he needs all this, whatever, it was good. Then come to find out, not the people that run the house, but the higher up the echelon they were skimming money. They made a racket out of it. They closed that house. And they closed the business end, the business that was controlling, running the house. They closed that. They got in trouble. So Denny falls under another group, headquarters or administration. And they got group houses and group homes, and he gets in those, and the care and everything's fine, and everything, and all of a sudden they're not asking us for money anymore. But every time you turn around, you'd be in a house here, and you go down, they're gone. They were gone. They weren't in this house. We'd have to try to find them. They wouldn't even notifying us when they changed houses. sometimes we had a heck of a time trying to figure out what's going on where he was, and that wasn't good at all. So that rock's alone there for a while, and then finally, this outfit, and I'm going to tell you, their name is called Enhanced Living. So, wonderful people, wonderful woman. A couple of people took that over and started this, but enhancement, and they took over. Oh my goodness. Now Denny has struck gold. Not only, I mean, he's happy. Wherever he was, he's happy. You know, he's happy as Lord. But one of that previous outfit that's with it, changing houses frequently, one of Denny's roommates, I mean, stability, he needed, Denny could adapt to anything. He was very adaptive. He'd adapt to anything. But one of the boys, he'd get real upset when they changed houses, and it was really bothering him. And he was really upset. And when Enhanced took over, really good people to work with and everything else, but this, the boy who's would really get upset, his daddy had left a fair amount of money for him to have a few things, and left him a little bit of money. Then he had a wonderful brother. And his brother said, you know, he's tired of his brother getting upset from every time he turned around, they changed houses. So what did he do? He goes and works out where they buy a house. There's three of them, the three amigos, Denny, John, and Terry. And Terry's brother worked this out, where these boys buy their house. They buy the house. And part of their payment, part of Denny's SSI and all that, went to make the house payment. So these boys now have a house of their own. They got their own home. They're not going to have to change houses now and then. They got their own house. They got their own house, and it's just three of them, 3 bedrooms. They got their own bedroom, their own house, their own everything. And Enhanced, helping them manage their finances and what have you. And Denny's got a job. Through Dawn of Hope, he works. He draws paycheck. He works, he makes money. He's got SSI that he's living on. He makes a certain amount of money. He can do whatever, and he has everything he needs. And matter of fact, every once in a while, because Denny's about to get too much money. If he accumulates too much money, he won't qualify for this, that, or the other program. So he needs to spend some money. And they'd asked, does Denny need a television in his room at home or something like that? I mean, just had to spend a certain amount of money. And but he had every kind of electronic gadget you could ask for, every TV and everything else. He's in hog's heaven. And we, of course, for over the years, we go get him, bring him home. Oh, he's thrilled. He's happy as a lark coming home. He's happy as he can be. He'll be happy as all get out and try to talk your leg off. You're playing charades with him, trying to figure out what it is he's saying, because he could not carry on a conversation, you know, like that. He knew what he wanted and what he tried to tell you, and you trying to figure out what the devil it is he's trying to tell you. So you're playing charades with him, but he'd be home, and when he was home on third day he was home, he had his bags packed and ready to go. He's just as happy to go back, and happier going back that way, to be back with his buddy in his home. It's like anybody else, you go on vacation, go for a visit, but you're ready to go back home, and that was his home. Him and his buddies, that was their home. And he had 24-hour caretakers, people there for 24 hours a day to help take care of him. I mean, Denny has got it made for life, and I know Denny has really got it. He is where we've always been trying to get him there, and he's there. It just, it was a great situation. And I can't say enough for Enhanced. They did a wonderful job with him. And like I said, he was a productive member of society. He worked on a job, he got paid, and he'd come home and he'd be home and he wouldn't know when he'd go back to his home because he got to go to work, to make that money. He liked money. He'd come, a lot of things he couldn't say. He couldn't say, he could not carry on a conversation with you, and only a very, very few words could he speak plainly. But most of the time, we didn't have a whole lot of trouble understanding what he wanted, what he needed, because we understood over a period of time, we understood what it is he's trying to tell you. And he understood what you're trying to tell him. But, for instance, value of money, if you gave him money, and if you gave him dollar bills, he'd throw those in trash. But if you gave him change, pocket change, he played with that. But he eventually found out that money's money. He come to where he really liked money. He didn't want to go to work, make that money. And he liked the money so well that he started printing him some. Among other things, he had a printer, a copy machine. And when he'd go through his allowance or what have you, Enhanced really helped him manage his money. He had everything he wanted and then some. But they really helped him a lot. But he started printing money, and they found out he's going to store something. He's trying to pay for it with this money that he printed on his printer. Well, that didn't work. He was a counterfeiter, I reckon. So anyway, one of the guys down there said, things that Denny knew and could understand would absolutely blow your mind sometimes, and things that he couldn't understand was just as equally amazing. But he was always I call him a wonderment, because how could he not understand this and how could he understand that? But anyway, he wanted what do they call him, a 3D printer? I don't know about that. It's hard to say why he'd print with that. Oh no. But anyway, Denny was a jewel. But he had lots of problems through his life. He had, for instance, he'd get boils all over the place, and really big boils and stuff, and he never complained, he never did anything, and they finally decided that they could take the insides of one of these boils, and they made a vaccine, and they gave him a vaccine made from his own boils, and that got him over that. He quit having boils, and he'd have first one thing and another. I mean, little fellow was constantly challenged, constantly having something, and then he got testicular cancer, and it had spread to his lymph nodes. Well, it's pitiful. Okay, this is not the best thing to talk about, but this little scrotum looks like a baseball, or a basketball around. So he goes in the hospital and he has surgery. He thinks he had a baby. He didn't want to see it either. After he went to the hospital and had a baby, after the surgery, he had this baby. Well, then he liked, up until then, he liked going to the hospital. Like I said, he had while in maybe go back a little bit, while he was in the ward situation, where he was in the ward with a bunch of, some of these kids would have seizures. Well, we bring Denny home for one of his visits, and my God, he had a seizure. Scared the fool out of us. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It was violent, horrible seizures. The gyrations he was going through, his tongue rolled out, his eyes rolled back in his head, and he was shaking his head. It was horrible. Then he passed out and quit breathing. So he stopped breathing. So His heart's still going, but he's not breathing. So I give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and everything, get him kind of revived around a little bit. And my God, we get him in the car and back to Green Valley, back when he was in the ward situation. Pooh, we fly down there and we get him in there and think, holy crap. And it was a hospital too, you know. They got in there and said, he don't have seizures. The heck he don't. He most certainly, they said, he don't have seizures. I thought, my, you people are crazy. So, anyway, a few weeks later, and we was talking to him, they said he does not have seizures. So we go get him, bring him back home, and we no more got him home, and he had a seizure. And he starts that, and they had said he does not have seizures. He starts it, and I mean, it's a scary situation. So I thought, could they possibly be right? He's sitting there on the couch, laying back on that couch, just going through all this stuff, and I run up to him, no! Well, he popped those eyes open, he looked at me, and I said, no, no, no. Yeah. Sorry, shook my hand. I said, you little devil. You little devil, you. So when he's in the group home situation, every time he'd get a new worker, you know, a new caretaker, somebody, when he was alone with a new person, he'd have seizure. And of course, they panic and they call 911, and then they call us. Denny's been taken to the hospital, 911, on an ambulance right now. And of course, we get in the car and we got to go. And so when you go, he's been admitted into the hospital, and you walk into the room, and he said, Dally, woo, 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 woo. Yeah, I got to ride in an ambulance, woo, 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 woo. I mean, that's what he did. He liked to ride in that ambulance. He enjoyed, you know, scaring the crap out of people, I guess. But anyway, he'd have seizures, and I get to ride in an ambulance. Well, when he got this cancer and went to the hospital and was operated on, that didn't set too good with him. Well, when they did the testicular cancer, they look at it and they think it's spread to his lymph nodes up and down his backbone. So he goes back into surgery again. And this is bad. I mean, a rough surgery. And he comes out of that surgery and he swells up like a little Buddha or something. I mean, from his knees up to his chin. He's got stretch marks like a woman has on her stomach. She has a baby. He's got stretch marks all over him. He's swelled up, looks like he's going to pop. But somehow or another, your body realizes that the lymph nodes, which acts as a filtering system, they're gone, and somehow or another, the body adapts to that, and that fluids eventually settle down and leaves. But he was in bad shape there for a while, so he went to the hospital. He'd go to the hospital on this woo-woo stuff, you know. Every time he turned around, he was in the hospital for that. But when he went in these two times, he was operated, and he didn't like that at all. So that helped to break him of the pulling these fake seizures. But he pulled one of these seizures. It happened to be two new people there, and it happened to be a doctor and a nurse. And he pulled this seizure on them, and they're like everybody else. You know, they bit into it. And this doctor puts him on anti-seizure medication. And we're trying to tell the doctor, hey, wait a minute, he does not have seizures. I mean, and the doctor's looking at, I'm a doctor. He had a seizure right there in front of me. He put him on this medication. And like I said, Denny had never cried in his life. But when they put him on that medication, it had him so messed up. I mean, he was a basket case, cried and everything else. I said, this has got to stop. We spent half of our life fighting for him and fighting against a lot of medical profession. Just trying to get him help from the professionals and having to fight other professionals at the same time, and that's what we had to do. So we finally go to back to his cancer doctor and said, look, Denny, he had an appointment with him. This doctor over here put Denny on anti-seizure medication, and Denny's a basket case. I mean, we've got to do, he said, a lot of people, they hear that C word, they go bananas, you know. He said, Denny has no reason to have seizures. He don't have seizures. So his orders was take him off the seizure medication. Well, the doctor who had been fooled, he couldn't believe this little retarded kid had faked him out, like I was trying to tell him he had. He'd faked me out too, so, but who am I? You know, he's a doctor, you know. So he had him faked out. The cancer doctor took him off of it. Well, this other doctor, he wanted him on it, so they said, okay. They come to us, will you consent to him to go through this study to find out whether he has seizures or not? Now, this was quite several years ago, and this study's $3,000. And I said, well, that's $3,000 wasted, but if you want to, go right ahead. So he put him in the hospital under observation for X number of days or whatever, and then it comes out, no, he does not have seizures. So we got him off that medication that caused him crying. It's the only time he ever cried in his life, when he was on that anti-seizure medication. Anyway, he got him off that, put it in his record that he has he fakes seizures. Finally got in his record that he had fake seizures, and whenever a new worker, somebody come in that had something to do, and it was noted to, look, he has fake seizures. He does not have real seizures, he has fake seizures. And what I told, when I was trying to get across to the people that know that work with him, that he does not have seizures, I said, if he starts on these seizures, I said, just dip your fingers in cold water in his little face. Just say no. The lady said he started having seizures. She did. Remember what I said? He quit. She said, I would never believed it. I'm telling you, he could win an Oscar. He was so good at faking seizures. He had seen so many real ones, I reckon, but he was so good at that he could fake you out. Anyway, so Denny was in this program, a really good program that where he learned, he progressed, he enjoyed his full potential, whatever that was. He was up to his potential. So we watched Denny go from a time when there was absolutely nothing. You never saw, you never heard the word Down syndrome. Nobody knew what a mongoloid was. So now you see, we've known and seen many Down syndrome children, and they're much higher functioning than Denny, all of them were. But there is help out there now. There was no help back then. There's nothing. So if a person has a Down syndrome child now, people generally know what Down syndrome is. If they're born with a Down syndrome, it's something they know something about, and there is help. There's help. There wasn't anything that we had to fight. We fought for many years. It was a struggle. It was a fight to try to get him some help. But thank God, now we've come light years away. Light years. And a lot of them can function well. Some, I've even known that they got married. A lot of them are pretty much totally self-sufficient or nearly self-sufficient. Need very little. But then you got the other extreme like Denny who need 24 hour help. But the help is there. The help is there now. The knowledge is there. People are not afraid of it anymore. They know what it is. So the Down syndrome situation has changed a lot. But I'm telling you, They're the sweetest kids that ever was. Denny was the sweetest kid that ever walked the face of this earth. He'd steal your heart. Steal your heart. And everybody came in contact with a lot of things. He's just the most lovable, sweetest little guy that ever lived. And all things considered, he had a good life. And like I said, we wanted him in this program not only for his benefit now and everything else, but if we were planning on him outliving us, well, 3 years ago, this coming May, Denny will have been dead 3 years. We lost. Hard to believe, but he was 56 years old. They said he'd never live to be 6 months old. We kept him for 6 years, and for 50 years he was in this wonderful program that we got for him. And thanks to a lot of people, and a whole bunch of thanks to Congressman Jimmy Quill and East Tennessee State College of Medicine is now called Jimmy Quill. It's named after him. Good man. But he did a whole lot for kids like Denny, and he helped us a lot, and he helped Denny a lot. We appreciate it. God helps us a lot. He helped us an awful lot. Without him, I don't know what it would have been. But Down's children are a blessing. When those people, the doctors, tried to get us not to see Denny and just put him in some kind of an institution, they meant well. But my God, what a blessing we would have missed. Denny's one of the best blessings that's ever come to us in our life. How can you explain how great it was to have Denny? And how hard it is to not have him. But all of Denny's life, everybody, every friend, every family member, everything that Denny come in contact with, Denny was a blessing. He was a blessing to everybody. Everybody enjoyed him, being around him, take him out, go for a ride, take him to movies, or take him to whatever. He was a blessing. Everybody loved Denny. So, when Denny died, when Denny passed, I told everybody, I said, God gave us a very special child. The most special child you could ever ask for. And he was a blessing to everybody. So if God wanted to bless him, who am I to complain? He was a blessing to me, to everybody else. And when he went to be with the Lord, he's blessed. And what a blessing he was. And I thank God for him. So if you have a Down syndrome child, you're a blessed parent. If you've got a Down syndrome family member, you're blessed. Or if you're blessed just to know a Down syndrome, you're blessed. The most awesomely, they're just wonderful. They're wonderful people, wonderful kids. You gotta love every one of them. They're love personified. You'll never see one hateful or mean or anything. They're love. They are love wrapped up in this wonderful little body. They are the embodiment of love itself. And Diane and I were blessed to have Denny for 56 years. And this video that's coming up is just going to be a few things, a few photos and what have you put together to kind of let you see what Denny was. I know I'm going to enjoy watching the video of him. I hope you do too. We were blessed. Talk soon.
you.